Do you ever realize that the things you thought were keeping you from doing a project aren't actually stopping you at all? I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle. It is Saturday, July 3rd. We are just back from a several day road trip. I am so exhausted, but I've got stitching to show you and projects to show you and a really quirky, confusing estate sale find. So let's do that. Southwest Mesa is still my passion project. I am still in love with this. Last week, I started stitching the foliage, the shrubbery, the undergrowth, whatever we want to call this. And I was just somehow in the mood where filling in full coverage sections of the project was fun. That's not a mood I've been in for a while. It's a mood I know and love, but I haven't been in that mood for a while. So I actually made a reasonable amount of progress and I am loving this. I just might keep going until it's done. Maybe. I did a little bit on Lucinda Hawkins' Liberty House. I stitched the roof because it seemed like an idea. And I was going to stitch the windows this morning, so I had more to hold up and show you on the screen, except I picked up Blueberry Buckle Lane instead, and I started on this lace down at the bottom. And this looks more fiddly than it really is to stitch. I figured out the rhythm of what direction to do the stitches in. Got a lot of it done. That lacy border under the house and the windows both sound like fun possibilities to stitch later this afternoon. I don't know which I'm going to pick. Either way, I'm going to finish both houses. So what I do when is not a crucial decision. We stopped at an estate sale before our road trip, and it was a weird one. I don't think I've ever done a trigger warning on an estate sale, even when we found some really creepy ones. But this one had something. When we get to the potentially disturbing part, I'll warn you. Let's talk about the embroidery. They had a ton of embroidery. They had a ton of very, very old embroidery. But they were the flour sack towel type things that I love. Someone had transferred them to make quilt blocks. But then for reasons I will never comprehend, they had taken a Sharpie and written a description of the thing across the center of the image. So, kitten with flowers. I don't know why you would do that. And things were age spotted. The lines had started to fade and blur. It wasn't anything that I wanted to make an offer on because they weren't priced, and the things that were priced were ridiculously high. They had a box of zippers they wanted $50 for. I bought a similar bag of zippers at the thrift store for $4 last year. So I think maybe the problem was that they had very old embroidery and very new embroidery, and whoever was pricing didn't get that there's a difference between brand new expensive embroidery threads and the 50-year-old stuff. But my son found something he wanted to bring home, and I've talked before about thrifting with my boys and how sometimes their choices baffle me. He asked me if I'd loan him some money since he'd forgotten his wallet because he wanted to buy something. And this is what he wanted to buy, which I've borrowed with permission to make this video. It is a plastic canvas violin. I don't know enough about violins to know what the real thing is supposed to look like, but this is pretty impressive. There is a slot here, and I don't know why there is a slot here. If you know, let me know. There was also a plastic canvas electric guitar, which had in the back a shelf for cassette tapes, which was kind of different. I don't know why this lives in my house now. It is one of the great mysteries of mankind. Nobody in our family plays violin or is into classical music or any of the things that would make this make sense. But you know, for $1, it will live with us and have a good life, and who knows? This, like I said, was a weird estate sale. A lot of stuff was dustier than you expected in a estate sale. There was a real weird line between the old stuff and the new stuff. So I don't know if we had a younger person who had brought home her mother's stash at some point in the distant past. Now here's the trigger warning. They were obviously very, very devoted to their house pets, and on a high shelf that I couldn't get a good enough look at to tell, and I was not going to lift it down for a better look. They had what were either taxidermied house pets or extremely realistic reproductions of their house pets. I don't want to know. I really don't. It's rare that I see something at a estate sale that rattles me. That kind of rattled me. And it makes me wonder, what would you do with those after the owner is gone? Because I see all the time on the thrifting groups, people will find what they claim are pet urns and get really, really upset about it. I know people taxidermy and freeze dry Fido, and what do you do with that? Because the idea of buying it at an estate sale seems just grossly disrespectful. Weird things that will keep me up late at night. We went to the library bookstore, and I have lately been gushing over crochet doilies, especially that chunky cotton crochet doily I found a few weeks ago. My brain had not made the connection that, yes, I know I could learn to crochet and make doilies, but I already know how to knit. And why? I have knit doily-like things. I know how to do lace in the round. Why did it never occur to me that instead of waiting until I learned to crochet, I could knit? There's some really pretty pieces in here, and I have other patterns I've got a huge collection of old work basket magazines, but for $1, this came home with me because why not? Yes, I have an idea how fiddly and hard this is going to be, and no, I am not going to try it this week. My other realization of a thing that I thought I couldn't do until I had the right thing was we stopped at one of the thrift stores and they had this. $2. And the original sales slip. This is 2 yards of Aida. I'm sure it's 14 count. I did not measure it. I have had a bit of trouble finding the right color Aida for those salt box houses because I need something dark enough for the light colors to show up against. How did I go for so long without remembering that tea dyeing is a thing? I know RIT dyeing is a thing. I have RIT. I knew I didn't want to do that, but I've got some really old tea bags and the kitchen cabinet and coffee, and I'm going to experiment, and hopefully I have got so much white Aida from thrift stores and estate sales, and it just cheaply falls into my life. If I could tea dye the Aida for those little houses, I'd be buying a lot less cross-stitch fabric these days. I'm optimistic about getting all this stuff done. It has been a weird day. All 3 of my boys went over to game at their sister's house, and I am never, ever here alone for more than a few minutes because we got a lot of people living under this roof. I came out of the back bedroom and heard a sneeze, clear as day. I was sure the boys had come home and they were in the front room, but no. The cat was not in the house. I don't know what I heard. And I'm too tired to deal with a home invader right now, so that's just going to be one of the great unsolved mysteries of life going forward. Thanks for watching. I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle. I think I'm going to finish stitching that lacy border this afternoon. I'm going to do some research on tea dyeing and probably honestly go take a nap.